Hi kids, it's me Teacher Bevs, and for today's video I will be teaching you about the subject arts. In our last video clips, I discussed about hanging mobile and how to create a hanging mobile. So we already finished that topic, and now we will be proceeding with our new lesson, which is Unit 5. So our topic is all about visual art in daily life. So let's talk or define what is art. So art is created to focus on beauty, religious beliefs, and tradition. So for our vocabularies for this unit, I will be giving you some words in English and as well as the Thai. So please read the English along with me and say the Thai afterwards. Okay, so we have our first word. We have the word puppet. Again, say puppet. Puppet in Thai means? Very good. Let's go to our next word. We have the word statues. Again, say statues. Statues in Thai means? Next, we have the word paintings. Again, say paintings. Paintings in Thai means? Let's go to our next word. We have the word sculptures. Follow me, say sculptures. Sculptures in Thai means? Next, let's go to the word pagoda. Again, follow me, say pagoda. Pagoda in Thai means? Okay. Next, let's have the word carvings. Follow me, say carvings. Carvings in Thai means? Next word, we have the word pottery. Again, follow me, say pottery. Pottery in Thai means? And last word, we have the word batik fabrics. Follow me, say batik fabrics. Batik fabrics in Thai means? Okay, now let's proceed to our lesson. So I will be showing you words and meanings and as well as examples of those words. So for our first word, we have the word puppets. Again, puppets in Thai means? Okay, now let's define what is a puppet. Let's read together. A puppet is an object often resembling a human, animal, or mythical figure that is animated or manipulated by a person called a puppeteer. So I will be showing you a picture of a puppet. So here we have our first example for our puppet. So this is called central puppet in Thailand. Again, it's central puppet. So the picture I encircled is an example of a puppet. And the next picture I encircled is an example of a puppeteer. So again, a puppeteer is the one holding or manipulating the puppet. Another example, we have another kind of puppet. This is called Ratchaburi Last Shadow Puppet Show. So this is held in Ratchaburi. So you can watch this puppet show in Ratchaburi province. So again, the one that I encircled, is a puppet, and the one holding or manipulating the puppet is called the puppeteer. Now let's go to our next word. We have the word statues. Statues is a kind of sculpture. So statues in Thai means now let's define what is a statue. Let's read. A statue is the art of making three-dimensional representative or abstract forms, especially by carving stone or wood or by casting metal or plaster. So I will be giving you an example of a statue. So there are two kinds of statue. We have the representative statue and we have the abstract forms. So when you say representative, it's a kind of form we can understand. So these forms exist. So we can see it in our surroundings or in our environment. Like, for example, organic forms. So these are living things. So this is the Statue of Liberty, and this is an example of a representative statue. So this represents a human form. Another, we have an animal form, which is a dog. Another animal form, which is an elephant. And Buddha statues, or what we call the Golden Buddha. We also have the Buddha statues, which is found in Ayutthaya. So these are called, again, representative forms because it represents a human form or organic form. So these statues exist. So we can see it in our surroundings and in our environment. So in our surroundings, we can see humans, we can see animals, so it's understandable. When you say abstract form, it's something that we cannot understand. So we really need to think deeply in order to understand what a particular form or figure represent. So some of these shapes does not really exist or we cannot see it in our surroundings. So again, abstract form is not having exact existence. So here we have this form. Can you tell if this is an animal or a person? No. So this is called an abstract sculpture. So it's a kind of abstract representation. Next, how about this figure? Is this an animal? Is this a person, a human? No. So this is, again, it's called the abstract sculpture. So now let's proceed to stucco. Stucco in Thai means? Okay. Now let's try to define what is a stucco. Let's read. Stucco is a material usually made of cement, sand, and water to form a hard covering for exterior walls. So these are the materials that we use to build a temple, to build a house, to build a building, to build a bridge. Okay, so the cement, sand, and water, we use this when we construct buildings, schools, hospitals, etc. So this is an example of a stucco. So it's a kind of sculpture also, but this is bas relief, an example of a bas relief sculpture. Here we have another example of a bas relief sculpture. And this is called again a stucco. Here we have another example of a stucco, which is high relief, because when you touch it, you can feel it. You can feel the curves, you can feel the flower. Okay, so again, this is called a stucco and it's high relief. Now let's proceed to our mural painting. So when you say mural painting, it's not a sculpture because we use a paint. So it's flat. If you're going to touch it, you cannot feel it because it's only a painting. So mural painting in Thai means, okay. So let's try to define what is a mural painting. Mural painting is any piece of artwork painted or applied directly on a wall, ceiling, or other permanent surfaces. So we can see mural paintings on the wall, on the gate. So we can even see mural paintings when we go to the temples in Bangkok. There are many mural paintings that you can see. But I will be giving you examples, so don't worry. This one. So can you see the walls? The walls are painted with murals. So again, this is called a mural painting. Next, we have another example. And another. I think this is in Grand Palace, if I'm not mistaken. So this is another example of a mural painting. Now let's proceed to wood carving. Wood carving in Thai means, okay, let's define what is a wood carving. Let's read. Wood carving is a form of woodworking using a knife or a chisel. So I'm sure you know what is a knife. So we use knife to cut fruits and vegetables, but we can also use a knife to carve a wood. Or specifically, you can use a chisel. So chisel are the different kinds of material that we can use to carve a wood. So here you can see there is a wood and a chisel. So the person is holding a chisel. So he is using a chisel to carve the wood. So chisel is better than knife because knife is dangerous. So this is an example of also a sculpture, but they are using a wood instead of cement. So again, this is called a wood carving. So in this example, this is a round relief because you can, if you're going to look at the side, you can see the side and you can also see the back part. So this is a kind of round relief sculpture. We have another example of a sculpture which is high relief because you cannot see the back part. You can only see the front and the side. So this is high relief sculpture. So this is an example of a wood carving because they use wood for the sculpture. Next, we also have kolai boat carving. So you can see this in you can even see this in Wat Krokrak. So in Wat Krokrak there are boats because Wat Krokrak is near the river. So you can see this. And I think you can also see this in other provinces. So this is called the kolai boat carving. So that picture, it looks like it's being painted, but if you're going to look closely, it's actually a carving. Next, let's go to pottery. So pottery in Thai means, let's define what is a pottery. So pottery, pots, dishes, and other articles made of earthenware or baked clay. So So a pottery is made of clay, and we actually bake it in order for the pottery to be hard or hardened. Now let's move on to our example. So here we have an example of a pottery. This is also a kind of sculpture, which is round relief. We also have another example. So those are examples of pottery. Pottery are made of pots. So like mug, cups, and other pots. So it might range from small to big. Now let's move on to our next word. Let's read painted paper umbrella. In Thai it means. Now let's define what is a painted paper umbrella. Let's read. Painted paper umbrella is an umbrella made of paper with handmade paintings, commonly used by Japanese and Koreans together with their traditional costume. So this is an example of a paper painted umbrella. Okay. Now let's go to batik fabric. It means in Thai. Now let's define what is a batik fabrics and where is it originated. So batik fabrics is an Indonesian technique of wax resist dyeing. Dyeing, when you say dyeing, it's coloring. So again, it's an Indonesian technique of wax resist dyeing applied to the whole cloth. This technique originated from the island of Java, Indonesia. So this idea originally started from Java, Indonesia, and then followed by other countries such as Thailand. So this is an example of a batik fabric. Okay. Now let's move on to woven. Woven in Thai means. Woven is the process of weaving or sewing materials into three-dimensional artifacts, such as baskets, mats, mesh bags, or even furniture. So here we have an example of a woven basket. So it's made of wood. Another one, we have a woven chair and a woven mat. So that ends our lesson on Unit 5, and in our next videos we will review about this topic, and as well as I will be teaching you how to answer the different activities that we have for this lesson. So I'll see you in our next video. Thank you so much for listening, and see you next time. Goodbye!